In this training, we're going to cover how to handle objections. And we're going to do that in contrast to overcoming objections. You know, whenever I hear the term overcome an objection, my perception is that it's almost like being engaged in a power struggle where there's a winner and a loser. And in handling objections, there's a win-win. The prospect wins and you win. So let's talk about how we can handle objections. Now, as I mentioned when we started this, the phrase overcome an objection kind of implies an adversarial win or lose situation. So here's the question I want to ask you, and this question will illustrate the psychology behind handling an objection. Do you do better when you feel better or when you feel bad? And do you feel better when you win or when you lose? Most people answer that they do better when they feel better, and most people answer that they feel better when they win. So my question to you is, if you do better when you feel better and you feel better when you win, why would you ever want your prospect to be wrong or to lose? For example, feelings are neither right or wrong, they just are. And the objections that people typically come up with are based on a fact or a feeling. So it's important that you engage them and respond to them in a way that allows them to feel better and allows both of you to win. Now, I have told you throughout some of these trainings we've done that everybody should have their mantra down. It's important to have your mantra down to know what you're going to say. The biggest problem people have in answering objections and having rebuttals isn't in the objection that they receive. For example, if you receive an objection, I want to think about it, that's probably not the first time you've heard it. You've probably heard that hundreds of times. The problem is those first 2 or 3 seconds when you hear an objection and then having something automatic to say. Your rebuttal should be an integrated part of your sales personality, and you should be able to respond as if it is just part of a normal conversation. So let's look at the 2 standard rebuttals that I want you to consider making an integrated part of your sales personality. Now, before we look at these 2 standard rebuttals, keep in mind that once you determine the prospect's specific objection, as we talked about in other trainings, you bring a broad objection down to a specific objection, then you have to handle the objection immediately. And the technique that I encourage you to use to do that is, number 1, you have to validate the concern. In other words, you have to make the prospect feel normal. Remember, we started this session off by saying, do you do better when you feel better or feel bad? So you have to make the prospect feel like that you see his objection as something normal. I understand how you feel. Some of my customers felt the same way the first time I talked to them. Then you have to restate or isolate that concern. So you have to restate it in a way that makes them understand what you heard and what you understand. And then you have to isolate it. This is not a contest to see who can give the best rebuttal. This is the process to help the prospect identify their dominant buying motive, uncover the reasons that your product or solution is going to help them solve their problem, and give them a reason to make that buying decision today. Remember, people buy on emotion and they move to action by logic. So you have to isolate the concern and make sure that it is a final concern before you provide a rebuttal. Otherwise, you're just going to keep getting objections. And this is not a contest to see who can come up with the best and the most rebuttals. And then you begin effective questioning. And effective questioning is effective because it leads your prospect to a logical conclusion and make a buying decision from you when? Today, right? So keep in mind that the idea of answering an objection is, number 1, to provide enough information for the prospect to make that buying decision today. The idea is not to educate them or consult them. You're not an educator and you're not there to consult. You're there to help them make a purchase and make a buying decision. So what are rebuttals designed to do? Rebuttals are designed to provide you with enough information to assist the prospect in making that buying decision today. That means the key in providing the 2 standard rebuttals is to be asking questions. The person asking questions is always in control. And the old adage is the first one who speaks what? I know most people say loses, but here's what I'm going to tell you. Are you saying to me that if the first person who speaks, when you ask the obligating question with your prospect, if your first person who speaks is your prospect, and that means that it results in him buying your product or service and having you or your company provide that product or service, that he lost? I don't think so. So I would tell you to have a new way of looking at this. The old adage should be that the first person who speaks wins. If your prospect speaks first, then they get your product or service. And if you speak first, then you get to listen to them and understand the reason they're buying. I know that you want to be understood. I know we always say that we want our prospect to understand, but that may not be the most important thing. The most important thing may be that you understand their dominant buying motive. Then you want to make a positive statement, take an affirmative action, and close and stay close. Isn't that true? See, isn't that true as a positive statement? Then an affirmative action would be putting your pen or circling where they sign it and say, all I need is your John Hancock right here. All I need is your authorization right here. Unless you're on a clearance, and make sure what you qualify for, while you still have a decision or a choice to make on your buying process. So you want to close and stay closed. You want to have an affirmative action that leads them to believe that you expect action on their part today. Here are the two phrases that I would encourage you to make an integrated part of your sales personality. These will give you the two standard rebuttals. It gives you something to say immediately so you don't have to look like deer caught in a headlight. And it gives you your time to think and uncovers the real reasons why your prospects are objecting. So the first one is, obviously you have a reason for feeling that way. Do you mind if I ask what it is? And the second one is, I understand how you feel. I have had other customers that felt the exact same way. Now, by doing this, you validate their concern and you give them an opportunity to restate, and you get an opportunity to restate what their actual objection is. Obviously, you have a reason for feeling that way. Do you mind if I ask you what it is? I understand how you feel. I've had other customers that felt the same way. By using those two standard rebuttals, you don't ever have to stutter again. You don't ever have to have an awkward pause again. When you get an objection, you're able to respond immediately because you make it an integrated part of your sales personality. Let's run through some examples on this. I'm not sure I want to pay that much out of my pocket before your company pays the bill. John, obviously you have a reason for feeling that way. Do you mind if I ask what it is? Now what I'm doing here is I'm going to clarify. So we're going to go through the process of how we clarify when we use these two standard rebuttals and the prospect responds to us. As in previous recordings, we know from experience that there's only 4 basic objections. No matter what objection you've ever received from a prospect, when you look at these 4 basic objections, I'm sure you'll find that almost every objection you've ever encountered falls in these 4 categories. No money, no need, no hurry, and no confidence. And I would tell you, if you get the same objection in 3 out of 5 presentations, you should probably start putting that objection as a part of your presentation. So people will object because of no money, no need, no hurry, no confidence. Those are the 4 basic objections that you will ever get. Now here's the good news. Once you understand what the 4 basic objections are, it's very easy for you to have a rebuttal prepared for each of the 4 basic objections. You should never ever be caught without having a rebuttal to an objection again, because you already know what category they're going to fall into. So once you hear the category that the objection falls into, you should have your objection, your rebuttal down as a part of your integrated sales personality. Keep in mind, the same reasons people won't buy from you are the exact same reasons they will buy from you. So no money, no need, no hurry, no confidence means that you can provide a rebuttal that uncovers the facts that they can't afford it, helps them come to the realization that it is worth it, gets them to acknowledge that they will use it, and reinforces that you and your company are trustworthy. So the 4 categories of 4 basic objections are no money, no need, no hurry, no confidence. And the same reason they won't buy from you are the same reasons they will buy from you. They can't afford it, it is worth it, they will use it, and they do trust you. Now, how do you respond to these 4 basic categories, no money, no need, no hurry, no confidence? Well, you have to use questions. And I would tell you to use the WH questions. We're going to look at what those WH questions are now. Now, here's the exercise that I would encourage you to do is to get a pen and paper out and pause this recording and write out questions that are relevant to these WH principles. So write out a when question, that's time. Write out a where question, that refers to place. Where would you like this delivered? When were you thinking about getting the savings to start? Who refers to person. Who would make the buying decision? Who provides the authorization? Who would accept delivery? The why question, which is the reason. Obviously, you have a reason for feeling that way. Do you mind if I ask what it is? The how questions. How do you plan on addressing these cost expenses that keep going up? And what questions. What questions address the object, the idea, or the actions? What plan do you have to not have these expenses anymore? So when is time, where is place, who is person, why is reason, how is the manner, and what is the object, idea, or action? So your assignment is for each one of these WH questions for you to write down a question that you will use as part of your rebuttal process. Now here are some more advanced WH questions. Which is a choice of alternatives. Whose is possession. Whom is a person. How much refers to price or amount. How many refers to quantity. How long is the duration. How often is the frequency. And what kind of refers to the description. What kind of solutions have you sought out in the past? How often do you have to make these buying decisions? How long does it usually take for you to get approval? How many do you normally go through in a cycle? How much are you looking to spend? How much are you looking to save? So this is your assignment again. Continue the WH lesson plan here and write out questions that relate to which one, whose, whom, how much, how often, how long, what kind of, and how many. So the way you do this is you take the question, the WH question, and then you use an open-ended question. The open-ended question gives the prospect an opportunity to give you more information, not less information. You're not looking to ask a question that is a closed-end question where they can only respond with a yes or no. You want an open-ended question so that they have to provide more information. So take the how, what, when, where, why, and who, and write the question out so it's not a closed-end question, it's an open-ended question. And the reason you want to do this is once the prospect answers your rebuttal, you respond with this open-ended question that starts with one of these words. Now, for those of you who have gone through this and you're concerned about asking these questions because it might make the prospect not buy from you, here's what I would tell you. You have to realize the value of time, yours and the prospect's. So let's go to the example that you hear me give all the time. You're not feeling well, and you go to the doctor. You go to Dr. A, you describe your symptoms, and Dr. A says, okay, John, I know what's wrong with you. I can give you this medicine, I can give you this medicine, I can give you this medicine, or I can give you this medicine. Which medicine do you prefer? Or you go to Dr. B, and you describe your symptoms, and Dr. B says, okay, John, I know what's wrong with you. He writes you a prescription, tears it off, and hands it to you. Says, fill this, take it twice a day, and come back and see me in 10 days. Now, which doctor do you have more confidence in? 80% of people 80% of the people I give this example to say they have more confidence in Dr. B. And why is that? Because the doctor